Millionaire shocked, hearing Black Beggar offer to save his business with hidden secret. Bruno Alencar stood frozen in the middle of his shattered office, the walls echoing with silence louder than any crowd. Outside, the city buzzed like a restless beast. Cold, gray clouds pressed low over the skyscrapers, and the damp air clung to his skin like a shroud. His hands trembled, gripping a cold cup of coffee, gone bitter and useless. Just days ago, this floor had roared with life and deals. Now it felt like a grave. He traced his eyes along the cracked floor, scattered papers fluttering like lost dreams. His empire reduced to rubble by an accusation that hit like a sledgehammer. Fraud. He hadn't done it. But the world didn't want to hear that. Everyone had turned their back. His phone sat dead. His face splashed across every tabloid screaming, "Fraudster." The weight crushed his chest, breath caught in his throat, heart pounding against his ribcage like a trapped animal. The door creaked open, slicing through the heavy silence. Bruno looked up sharply. Standing there was a boy, skin dark, clothes ragged, eyes sharp, the kind of eyes that have seen too much already. David, the street kid who nobody really noticed. His fingers clutched a worn, crumpled note, the edges stained and torn. "Mr. Alencar," David said, voice low but steady, "my mom left this for you. Said you'd need it someday." Bruno's mind raced. Who was this kid? What could he possibly offer? The room seemed to close in as David stepped inside, his presence breaking the chill of despair that had settled like ice in Bruno's soul. David pulled out the note, a scribbled message pointing to something hidden, something dangerous. It spoke of proof buried deep in the company's shadows, proof that could clear Bruno's name and expose the real villain, Patricia, his ex-wife, the queen of manipulation. The storm behind his ruin. The city outside kept its relentless hum, but inside Bruno's head a louder noise erupted, the sound of hope fighting to breathe. Yet the threat was immediate. An auction awaited. A final move by Patricia to sell off everything Bruno had left, sealing his fate in public ruin. David's gaze didn't waver. "I'm gonna stop her," he said, raw with determination. "And you're coming with me. If we don't act fast, it's over." Bruno stared at the boy, the gears shifting in his mind. Could this ragged kid really hold the key? Was this alliance his last shot at survival, or just another cruel twist? The air between them crackled with tension, pain, and something fragile. Hope. Outside, the rain began to fall, cold and unforgiving. Inside, Bruno's breath hitched. The clock was ticking. The darkest battle of his life was about to begin. Would the truth set him free, or bury him deeper in this nightmare? The answer hung heavy. In the damp morning air. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. A lot of subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without warning. Just take a quick look at that red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any of the exclusive content coming your way. And while you're here, hit that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. The rain hammered against the window like 1,000 tiny fists. Bruno felt it match the wild thrum of his pulse. David stood in front of him, determination etched on his small but fierce face. Time raced on, But all Bruno could focus on was the note. He had to act quickly. "Let's go," he finally said, tearing his gaze from the defeated remnants of his office and aiming for something brighter, something real. David nodded, his thin frame pulsing with energy, ready to take on the world. Together, they burst through the door, stepping into the gray city that reflected Bruno's mood, a stark reminder of what he had lost. As they trudged through the wet streets, David spoke, his whispers of adventure, filling the spaces between rain strikes. Each word pulled Bruno towards a flicker of hope. But something wasn't right. The way David moved, his eyes darting to shadows, the tight way he held the crumpled note, Bruno felt a prickle on the back of his neck. A deep breath and a casual glance revealed nothing amiss, or so he thought. They arrived at Patricia's auction house, a grand building, but inside, it felt like squeezing through the belly of a beast. It was a hub of glitz and greed, the kind of place that made your skin crawl. All those eager bidders, they couldn't know what her plans truly were. As they slipped through the crowd, Bruno's heart raced. There was no turning back. He scanned the room, searching for a glimpse of his ex-wife, envisioning her smug smile. He had to prove his innocence, had to find that proof that David spoke of. But just as he felt that rising swell of courage, a flash of motion captured his attention. A woman, a figure dressed in severe black, her hair slicked back tight, caught his eye, gesturing urgently. It was Patricia. He felt the bile rise in his throat. Then something strange happened. David's face paled. "Wait," he hissed, gripping Bruno's arm. Before he could respond, the crowd erupted into chaos. A terrible sound rang out, a gunshot, silencing the gavel-pounding auctioneer. Confusion spread like fire. Patrons screamed and scattered, bodies colliding as they scrambled for the exits. Bruno instinctively pulled David close. In that instant, he caught sight of Patricia again. But now, she was weaving through the crowd, fluid, purposeful, her eyes locked onto something. Then, David gasped, his voice barely a whisper. "They're after her." "What?" Bruno said, but his voice was drowned in the panic around them. The next moment twisted the very fabric of reality. A second shot echoed. Patricia fell. Time froze. Bruno's heart stopped. He raced forward, but stopped short when David pulled him back with unexpected strength. The boy's eyes were wide, his breath ragged. "It's not what it seems," he shouted. Then David shocked Bruno to his core with words that shattered his world. "I'm not a street kid. I was sent to protect you from her. You can't trust anyone here." A chill swept through Bruno. The chaos blurred around him. Trust, betrayal, everything he thought he knew fractured as he stared into David's eyes, searching for clues. The auction house was chaos. People continued to scream, cries mingling with sirens slipping through the darkening sky. Bruno felt the ground beneath him slip away. Was the true enemy closer than he ever imagined? As the pulse of the city rose to a fever pitch, the boy held a secret that could unravel everything. Would Bruno dare to follow David now? Or would he let the truth drown in this new storm? The rain poured harder outside, mirroring the storm inside his mind. The fight was just beginning, but the rules had all changed. What awaited them next remained a dangerous uncertainty as he whispered through the crowd, unsure of who was truly on his side. David's grip tightened around Bruno's arm, his breath hitching in the chaos swirling around them. The room pulsed with the energy of panic, but Bruno felt his mind sharpen, focusing solely on the boy's words. Could it be true? Had everything he'd ever known really been a mask over some deeper reality? Another shot rang out, but this one was different, a louder crack that cut through the screams like thunder. The crowd surged, bodies rushing past, as Bruno's heart raced in rhythm with the chaos. He couldn't stay here. Not with David in front of him, a stranger turned protector. Instinct kicked in. "We need to move," he shouted through the noise, and grabbed for the boy's hand. But as they turned to escape, something unexpected happened. A sudden, deafening silence fell over the auction house. Every voice, every cry fell away, replaced by an eerie hush. In that stillness, something heavy entered Bruno's heart, a sense of dread that clawed at his skin. And then, in that moment, the truth unfolded. Patricia, still sprawled on the floor, began to stir. A gasp erupted from the crowd as she lifted her head, her eyes flashing, sharp and fierce. Was she alive? The blood hadn't soaked her outfit. She was unscathed. But that wasn't the twist. In the moments that followed, as murmurs rippled through the crowd, David's eyes widened in terror. He pushed Bruno back against a wall, shielding him with his own body. "No, you can't. You don't know." Bruno's stomach dropped. "What do you mean I don't know?" Patricia's voice rang clear, cutting through the revived noise like a knife. "You thought I was the villain? I was your protector, Bruno. I had to lay the groundwork so you could escape the clutches of your enemies. And you..." Her eyes pinned David, icy and accusing. "You're a traitor!" David's face blanched. "No, you've twisted it all. You didn't care about him. You only wanted the money, the power." Bruno was caught in the crossfire of emotions. Confusion, betrayal, anger. "What is happening? Who are you?" he shouted at David, his hands clamoring for answers. The small boy, this supposed street urchin, began to tremble, his fierce facade crumbling. "I was sent here to protect you. Yes, I'm not who you think I am." He hesitated, the weight of the confession thick, and then blurted out, "I'm your son. Bruno, your son." The world tilted. Noise rushed back, voices merging into one incomprehensible wave. Bruno felt the ground beneath him buckle like a broken bridge. His heart thudded painfully in his chest as he looked at David, suddenly shifting from an ally to something much more complex. How could this be? Patricia's expression shifted from confidence to anguish. "You are lying. You can't." But David thrust a trembling finger towards her. "You kept him from me. You never wanted him to know the truth." Bruno locked eyes with David, feeling the truth like a freight train crashing into him. His heart raced with confusion. This boy had grown up without him, hidden in the shadows of his life. And now he was here, dragged into this chaos. An uproar erupted in the crowd again, and Bruno knew the moment for questions was fleeting. But the answers only deepened the chaos inside him. Who was right? Could he trust either of them? The storm that had brewed within him began to swell, roaring for attention. "No!" Patricia shouted, and suddenly she was moving. The woman wasn't finished yet. She reached for something. A weapon? A hidden escape? Panic surged again. Time was slipping away. Trust was gone. As Bruno's world spun further out of control, he took a breath, gauging the impossible decision before him. Would he follow this claim of fatherhood, or confront a past that may consume him whole? The unexpected unfolded like a twisted ribbon in his heart. What path led toward salvation, and what path led deeper into the darkness? Outside, the rain hammered still, but the storm inside him roared louder than ever. The truth had shattered everything. What waited in the aftermath? Bruno stood at the center of chaos, his heart racing as revelations crashed around him. "You're my son?" Speech stumbled from his lips like gravel. The world felt like it was splintering, layers collapsing to reveal something hidden and raw. David's eyes were wide, fear threading through every line of his face. Patricia, still writhing on the floor, locked her gaze on Bruno's, her voice dripping with disdain. "This is a trick. He's just playing games with your mind. Just like I always said, don't trust him." But David didn't falter. "I watched you from the shadows. I saw how she twisted everything to keep us apart." He pointed, a shaking finger, at Patricia. "You were the one in control, manipulating the world around you." Panic twisted Bruno's gut. The crowd surged, backing away from the tension swirling in air, thick with electricity. The familiar faces began to shift, blurred by fear and confusion, uncertain of the unfolding drama. Whispers flickered like fireflies. "Is that the kid's father? No way." Then the lights flickered, dimmed, and the room plunged into a half-light. The whispers morphed into gasps, raising the stakes of an already tense atmosphere. Bruno's instincts kicked hard, a warning pricking at his skin. Something was wrong, even deeper than deceit and betrayal. Then, with a sudden crash, the back door slammed open, revealing a figure cloaked in darkness. A deep, booming voice called out, "Enough of this charade!" The crowd parted, eyes widening in unison. The newcomer stepped forward, flickering shadows surrounding him like a wraith. Bruno's heart sank. It felt like the ground beneath him fell away. "Who?" A quiet whisper beneath the chaos. But the stranger answered without hesitation, his face obscured by gloom. "Your true enemy has arrived," he sneered, a twisted smile playing on his lips. "Too familiar somehow. Turns out it's not just Patricia. None of this was ever random, and neither of you were ever really in control." Bruno's stomach twisted tight. Suddenly, everything felt exposed, like being stripped in a storm. David's expression shifted, confusion taking root. "What do you mean?" In one fluid movement, the stranger reached into his coat, producing a small device that flickered ominously. "This little beauty will reveal your truths. All the truths. Your family ties, your darkest secrets." Bruno's breath hitched. What kind of truth? Panic ignited. The haunting notion that everything he believed now teetered on a razor's edge loomed closer, pressing heavy against his chest. With a smirk, the figure leaned closer, the shadows swirling around him in a living cloak. "Let's just say you all have roles to play. You, Patricia, even his mother. And your little boy?" He pointed at David, his voice dropping to a whisper that cut through the din. "He's not what you think. He's the key to every secret buried in this city. Even yours, Bruno." Bruno's heart lurched. The world spun as the threads began to unravel before his eyes. David wasn't just his son, but potentially a pawn in something sinister. something vast. The boy opened his mouth to speak, but before sound could form, the device beeped sharply, blinding white light seeping from it. With it, a tremor coursed through the room. The walls shuddered, the crowd gasping, as revelations prepared to burst forth. Panic descended like a choked breath, but Bruno felt the shadows closing in, darkness ready to swallow him whole. "The game," the stranger laughed, "is only just beginning." Bruno turned to his son, his heart shattering as uncertainty loomed between them. Could he trust David? Could anyone be saved from this spiraling nightmare? And then the ground shook, the lights flickering wildly. This wasn't over yet. The storms had only begun to gather. Bruno stood rooted, heart pounding, as he braced against the truth threatening to pull everything down. A figure in the shadows, poised to reveal all. Amid the confusion, darkness thickened, new secrets threatening to tear apart their fragile connections. What lay beyond the revelation? What terrible truth awaited them all? The device pulsed with light, casting eerie shadows off the walls. Suddenly, the air hummed with anticipation, heavy with uncertainty. Bruno's heart pounded in rhythm, a frenetic beat echoing through the chaos. He shot a glance at David, wondering if this boy, who claimed to be his son, could truly hold the power to unlock the secrets that loomed overhead. "Shut it down!" Patricia screamed, her voice trembling, eyes wide with fear. The crowd pressed back, but curiosity held them rigid, suspended between disbelief and intrigue. The stranger with the flickering device laughed, the sound cold and chilling. "You think you're in control? The truth has a way of shattering facades, doesn't it?" He twisted a dial, and the light intensified. A wave of energy pulsed out, washing over the crowd. Bruno felt a jolt, a surge like electricity that left him breathless. Then, a sudden blast of sound shattered the air, the device exploding in a shower of sparks. Everything around them erupted in chaos. The crowd screamed, ducking down, scattering like leaves before a storm. Bruno felt David fall against him as the crowd surged, pressing them apart. "David?" Panic clawed at his throat. He searched for the boy in the chaos, but the crowd swirled like a tempest, bodies colliding and pushing. And then he saw something, a glimmer, a flash on the floor. It shone amidst the wreckage. Bruno lunged, desperate. As he reached down, his fingers brushed against something cold and metallic, a locket, half buried in the debris. He pried it loose, heart racing. The locket sprang open in his hand, revealing a picture. His breath caught. Inside was a photo of a woman who looked just like him. But that wasn't the shocking twist. In her arms, cradling a tiny baby, David. It felt like the ground split beneath him. No, the world spun. "Bruno!" David's voice broke through the screams, raw with urgency. He fought his way to Bruno, his small frame weaving through the chaos. "We have to get out of here." But how could Bruno move? The boy, his son, had been raised by someone else, hidden from him. His breath hitched, heart dropping like a stone into a dark abyss. The locket felt heavy in his hand, filled with all the weight of lost time and twisted truths. A flicker of memory surged. His mother had a locket. Just like this, a family heirloom passed down for generations. But how? Confusion raged through him. He locked eyes with David, who stood panting, fear etched into every line of his face. "We don't have time." David tugged at Bruno's arm, but everything felt frozen. Suddenly, a shout erupted from the back. "Step away from him!" A figure emerged, a large man with deep-set eyes and an authoritative voice. "Bruno Alencar, you are under arrest for conspiracy and fraud." The words cut through the air like a knife. Bruno's chest constricted. "What?" David stepped in front of Bruno, eyes blazing. "You can't!" But the man only laughed, a cruel, sharp sound. "You thought Patricia was your enemy? She was just a pawn. The real game involves far worse players. You're tangled in a web you can't even see." The room began to spin. Reality slipped from his grasp. "What do you mean?" With a wicked grin, he continued. "Your mother wasn't just a petty thief. She was an architect of this mess, overseeing deals far beyond your comprehension. And now, she's waiting for you to play your part." A chill settled over Bruno, a truth darker than he could imagine. Everything he'd known, everything he'd fought for, all a carefully crafted illusion. "Run!" David cried, voice urgent, dragging Bruno back into the chaos. As they turned, the entire auction house seemed to close in on them. Shadows creeping closer. Bruno felt breathless, lost in the shifting tides of battle and betrayal. How deep did the lies run? Could he trust David? Or was he just another chapter in the unfolding storm? The weight of unwelcome truths chased him down the corridor of uncertainty. And as they pushed against the tide, a single question reverberated in Bruno's mind. What else had been hidden from him in the dark corners of his life? Outside, rain battered the pavement, but the tempest inside him raged louder than ever. A storm ready to burst, unveiling the depths of a truth that might destroy them all. Bruno felt the surge of panic, while David pulled him through the crowd. The chaos swirled around them. Bodies, pressed like a wave, pushing and pulling. Every heartbeat echoed the urgency clawing at his insides. "Where do we go?" he shouted, barely audible over the chaos. "Outside! We need to get out of here!" David's voice was sharp, laced with fear. Bruno nodded, trying to focus, but the weight of the truth still dripped like ice in his veins. He didn't know who to trust anymore. How long had David hidden his true identity? Then, another crack of thunder shook the building, vibrating the ground beneath them. But it was the voice that struck deeper, freezing them in place. "Bruno!" An authoritative yell pierced through the screams. Bruno turned, heart hammering against his ribcage. There stood a woman, dark, hair plastered against her sweat-dampened forehead, eyes blazing with intensity. It was Lydia, a former associate, the very last person he expected to see. "Just run! Don't listen!" she screamed, urgency radiating from her small frame. He hesitated, eyes darting between her and David, who looked equally stunned. "Get down!" Lydia shouted again, as she shot through the throng, reaching for something beneath her coat. But before Bruno could react, the world erupted. An explosion rocked the auction house. Glass shattered, concrete splintered, and screams turned into a universal roar of terror. Bruno's instincts kicked in. He yanked David close, shielding him. The boy's eyes widened, reflection of horror. "Did they?" "I don't know," Bruno yelled back, his mind racing. Their escape turned into a frantic dash as debris rained down around them. Lydia's figure blurred amidst the chaos, but he knew they couldn't stay here. The light had dimmed, smoke wafted like ghostly fingers, and the specter of despair settled over them. "Follow me," David shouted, leading the way through the smoke, but uncertainty clawed up Bruno's throat. Before he could answer, a blinding light surged towards them from Lydia's direction. There in the haze, a figure emerged, a tall man, face shadowed, but posture unmistakably confident. He raised his hands, palms forward. "Stop!" Bruno's chest tightened with panic. "What do you want?" he barked, feeling the tremor in his legs. "Your mother sent me," he replied, voice breaking through the chaos with a calmness that stung. "She knows you've been looking for answers, and she wants to meet. Now." Bruno's thoughts spun. How could she? Everything was unraveling. He felt lost. "She's the last person I want to see. There's not much choice." The man stepped closer, swirling smoke contrasting against his crisp suit. "She has the answers you need. Everything that has happened. It's part of a larger plan." "No," David interjected, fear etching his voice. "He can't trust her." The man raised an eyebrow. "And what do you know, kid? Or should I be addressing you as David Alencar?" The name landed like a blow. Bruno's heart stopped. Everything flipped. "What?" he gasped, astonishment flooding his senses. But David shot him a frantic look, one that screamed danger. "Your mother isn't just your mother, Bruno. She's orchestrating this, a puppet master to a game bigger than both of us." "No!" David cried, stepping in front of Bruno. "She lied to me. You're lying." But the man only smiled, that same smug smirk. "It's all interconnected, David. Your identity, her plans. Both of you are key players." Bruno felt the world tilt. His mother wasn't just pulling strings. She was orchestrating a web surrounding everything he loved, and now his son was caught in it. "Tie it all together," he shouted through the chaos, eyes darting. "What does she want?" The man gazed at David, then back at Bruno. "She wants control, and you both are the final pieces in her game." With those words, Bruno felt the ground beneath him dissolve into uncertainty, darkness pooling as he tried to understand. Could he trust David? Had Lydia really been someone he could rely on? Or was it all a beautifully spun trap? And before he could breathe, the ceiling lurched, chunks of debris beginning to fall, shadows creeping closer, the storm inside brimming over with revelations, waiting to explode. What would happen next? The truth was spiraling, and the core of it all remained terrifyingly out of reach. Bruno felt the ground shifting beneath him, chaos swirling like a tempest. David's eyes were wide with alarm, his breath quickening. "We have to get out," he urged, tugging at Bruno's arm as the man's words sunk deeper. A low rumble echoed through the building, like a startled beast stirring awake. The walls trembled, and the flickering lights danced with unease. Bruno snapped back to reality, adrenaline pumping. "We can't stay here." He clutched the locket tighter, sensing it pulsing with secrets he still didn't fully understand. "Follow me," David shouted. But before they could move, a sharp crack split the air, sending shockwaves through the already fractured atmosphere. "Stay back," the man instructed. But his warning was swallowed by the rising panic. The crowd surged, instinct driving bodies toward any exit they could find. Just then, the ceiling buckled, debris falling like rain. "Move!" Bruno yelled, pulling David closer as they darted toward the nearest exit. Just as they reached the door, something unexpected happened. An explosion, a deafening blast, rocked the entire auction house, sending them both sprawling to the ground. Smoke filled the air, wrapping around them like a suffocating blanket. Bruno could barely see, the world around him a hazy blur. David coughed beside him, panic warring in his expression. "We need to get out now!" But before they could rise, a powerful figure emerged through the smoke. Tall, shrouded in darkness. The figure stepped forward, shadows swirling like ghosts around him. "Enough!" Bruno's heart raced as recognition ignited in his chest. It was Victor, a ghost from his past. The man had connections everywhere, a name whispered in fear. "You shouldn't be here," Bruno stammered, confusion mingling with disbelief. "Neither should you," Victor replied, voice booming as the debris slowly settled. "You're playing a dangerous game. All of you are." As he spoke, the shadows around him twisted, revealing figures hidden within. The rest of the crew from Bruno's former life. Anxiety ricocheted through him. "What do you want?" And then Victor smirked, a twisted satisfaction in his gaze. "Let's just say there have been some recent developments you were not aware of. About David." Bruno's gut tightened, anxiety clawing at his throat. "What do you mean?" "David isn't just your son." Victor paused, reveling in the buildup. "He's the rightful heir to a fortune you've spent your entire life trying to escape." A gasp echoed from the crowd, uncertainty thickening the air. David's face paled. "That's not true." "Oh, but it is," Victor pressed, his voice low and dripping with condescension. "You both have been pawns in a much larger game. The money, the power, it's all intertwined. Your mother was planning this all along, while you were just puppets, dancing on strings you didn't even know existed." The truth hit Bruno like a freight train, crashing through the illusion he had desperately held on to. "No," he breathed, voice trembling. "You're lying." "Am I?" Victor challenged, eyes glinting with wicked delight. "It would explain why Patricia has been watching you both from the shadows, manipulating events to ensure David was protected while keeping you blissfully unaware." Bruno stepped back, the ground beneath him tilting, shaking his reality. He looked at David, a boy he thought was lost to him, now intertwined with a legacy he didn't know how to navigate. "What does that mean for us?" he asked, breathing heavily. David's eyes were wide, tears brimming. "I don't understand. I don't want any part of this." But before Bruno could comfort him, a deafening crash echoed through the room as a wall caved in. Debris rained down and panic boiled over. The crowd screamed, rushing toward the exit in a desperate scramble for safety. "Run!" Victor shouted, but as Bruno turned to flee, he caught the one thing he hadn't expected. A glimpse of Patricia, rising from the shadows, her face twisted into a smile of triumph. "Stay where you are," she commanded, the chaos around them fading into a stark silence. "Victories are about to be claimed, and you, both of you, are right at the center of it all." Bruno felt the walls close in, the very fabric of his life unraveling around him. Could he save David? Could he save himself from this impending storm? The truth lay heavy in his heart, shrouded in mystery. What dark legacy bound them together? And as the auction house fell deeper into chaos, Bruno faced the storm with uncertainty threatening to swallow him whole. Would any of them survive the truth that was about to break free? Bruno stood frozen, heart pounding, as Patricia's triumphant smile loomed large. With smoke swirling in the air, confusion pressed against him. Suddenly, the walls felt like they were closing in. David stared wide-eyed, fear seeping from him like a cracked dam. "You two don't understand what you're stepping into." Patricia's voice had transformed from cold confidence to something menacing. "I've controlled everything. You think you can walk away unscathed?" Before Bruno could retaliate with another question, a deafening crack split the air. The building trembled further. And then it happened, a deep rumble that sent everyone reeling. The very foundation of the auction house shook precariously. It was as if the world itself was responding to the revelations, shifting like a living thing beneath their feet. Bruno felt a cold dread seep into his bones. "What are you doing?" he shouted towards Patricia. But the chaos seemed too loud. The crowd erupted into screams, shoving toward the exits. Lydia reappeared, pushing through the crowd. "We need to get out," she urged, grabbing David. But just then, a blinding light surged from the depths of the room. It exploded, a violent burst that sent debris flying like shrapnel. "Get back!" Bruno yelled, instinctively throwing himself over David to shield him from the impending storm of destruction. The dust settled slowly, revealing the damage. It was chaos, but in the aftermath, something strange emerged. A figure clambered through the cloud of smoke. It was Victor, stepping forward unscathed, face twisted in something resembling victory. "Goodbye, Patricia," he said, voice calm amidst the chaos. "Your time is up." He reached into his coat pocket, producing another device, this one glowing with an ominous energy. And then, with a swift motion, he pressed a button. An ear-piercing sound rang through the air. A wave of energy pulsed like an earthquake. Bruno felt the shift reverberate through him like a shockwave. The walls reacted, paintings fell, glass shattered, and a blinding flash illuminated every face in terror. But it was only for a moment. As the light faded, apprehension filled the room. And there before Bruno's shocked gaze stood a new figure, a woman with familiar features, rising from the debris, a woman he never thought he'd see again. It was his mother. "Mom?" The word tumbled from his lips, as if conjuring a forgotten ghost. She smiled, but it was wicked and knowing. "You've all been so naive," she said, dismissing the chaos around her. "David isn't just your son, Bruno. He's our son. Our real plan was always waiting for you to come back." The impact of her words landed hard, an anchor dragging Bruno down into a sea of confusion. He shook his head, uncertainty coursing through him. "What do you mean?" But his mother continued as if she hadn't heard him. "I've set this all up. Patricia, Victor, they thought they had control, but it was always part of the game." Panic washed over David. "You knew? You were all part of this?" Before they could process further, Victor smirked, his expression twisted with satisfaction. "She's been orchestrating the entire thing. We didn't just want your money or power, Bruno. We wanted the lineage, the legacy David carries." Shock mounted as the truth descended like a rain of stones. The crowd froze, stunned, breaths caught sharp. Bruno's world splintered into fragments, leaving him reeling. David looked between the two of them, confusion painted across his young face, caught in a web of secrets that just unraveled. "Why?" David's voice trembled. "Because," his mother purred, "the truth is more critical than you realize. Together, we can take back what's ours. You just didn't remember." The weight of betrayal choked him. The battle over trust led to nothing but illusion. As the reality of interconnected destinies tightened around them, thunder cracked outside, a dismal symphony echoing his heart's descent into chaos. Each person exchanged glances, bewildered and afraid. "Mom, what are you talking about?" he begged, desperation in his voice. But before she could elaborate, another devastating tremor surged through the building, followed by an ominous rumble. The faint silhouette of a helicopter roared to life outside, its blades whispering death. Lydia screamed, "We have to run!" But Bruno felt anchored, eyes never leaving his mother. The storm was here, and what lay ahead was as uncertain as the foundations crumbling around them. How could he escape this snare? The truth had begun to weave its way back into their lives. But at what cost? Bruno stood frozen, heart pounding, as Patricia's triumphant smile loomed large. With smoke swirling in the air, confusion pressed against him. Suddenly, the walls felt like they were closing in. David stared wide-eyed, fear seeping from him like a cracked dam. "You two don't understand what you're stepping into." Patricia's voice had transformed from cold confidence to something menacing. "I've controlled everything. You think you can walk away unscathed?" Before Bruno could retaliate with another question, a deafening crack split the air. The building trembled, and a deep rumble sent everyone reeling. The very foundation of the auction house shook precariously, as if the world itself were responding to the revelations. Bruno felt a cold dread seep into his bones. "What are you doing?" he shouted toward Patricia, but the chaos seemed too loud. The crowd erupted into screams, shoving toward the exits. Lydia reappeared, pushing through the throngs. "We need to get out," she urged, grabbing David. Just then, a blinding light surged from the depths of the room, exploding. A violent burst that sent debris flying like shrapnel. "Get back!" Bruno yelled, instinctively throwing himself over David to shield him from the impending storm of destruction. The dust settled slowly, revealing the damage. It was chaos, but in the aftermath, something strange emerged. A figure clambered through the cloud of smoke. It was Victor, stepping forward unscathed, face twisted in something resembling victory. "Goodbye, Patricia," he said, voice calm amidst the chaos. "Your time is up." He reached into his coat pocket, producing another device, this one glowing with an ominous energy. And then, with a swift motion, he pressed a button. An ear-piercing sound rang through the air. A wave of energy pulsed like an earthquake. Bruno felt the shift reverberate through him like a shockwave. The walls reacted, paintings fell, glass shattered, chaos roared. But just as Bruno braced himself, an explosion rippled through the auction house. A torrent of dust and smoke burst toward them, dark and suffocating. Screams erupted. It was pandemonium. Bruno pulled David closer, fearing the worst. "Stay behind me. That's not the real explosion," Victor shouted over the cacophony. "It's meant to draw your mother out." Before Bruno could process the words, the panic shifted focus. A fresh wave of smoke rolled in, thick and black. It cloaked everything, turning the world into a dark void. He coughed, struggling to breathe. And then, through the chaos, he saw another figure, a woman emerging from the blackness. Her silhouette vague at first, but familiarity sparked recognition. It was his mother, alive, emerging from the depths as if summoned by his thoughts. "Mom?" The words slipped out, half a prayer, half a scream. "Bruno, oh my God, I'm so glad I'm here," Patricia said, her voice smooth, almost seductive. She stepped forward, sweeping aside the dust. "You have no idea who I am and what I've kept from you." Bruno's heart raced, dread pooling in his stomach. "What are you talking about?" Instead of answering, Patricia pulled something from her pocket, a small device that glowed with a malevolent energy. "This is a DNA analyzer, dear," she explained, voice dripping with confidence. "The truth is buried within you, and it's time we bring it out." Before Bruno could react, she pressed a button. The device whirred and beeped loudly, marching forward with a purpose. A rush of energy shot through the room, flickering lights casting swift shadows. And then the screen lit up, bright and glaring. Everyone else stood frozen, eyes glued to it, agape with confusion and fear. The machine displayed a series of images, family portraits, documents, names. Bruno barely understood when one image caught his eye. A photo of a woman, with strikingly familiar features, standing alongside an older man, his grandfather. It twisted and spun rapidly, revealing more. The Alencar family has a lineage that connects with families worldwide. Legacy, wealth, power, Patricia declared, taking center stage. And you, Bruno, are tied to each of them. It's not just about the business. It's about a global empire waiting for its rightful heir. Bruno's world tilted. The room dimmed as the revelations sank in. "No," he gasped, heart racing. "What do you mean?" And before a single thought could coalesce, another figure appeared, weaving through the crowd, shoving people aside with fierce determination. A young woman, brash and fierce, long hair whipping wildly. "You fools, I can't let you do this." Her voice struck like lightning, filled with fury. The woman was familiar. He could see it in her eyes. It was Gabriella, his childhood friend. The daughter he thought he'd never see again. "Stop this madness," she shouted, her face a mask of anguish. "Gabriella?" Bruno exclaimed, his heart racing. "What are you doing here?" She glared at Patricia, and then turned to Bruno, fire in her eyes. "You need to listen. Everything she's told you is a lie." Before Bruno could ask more, the screen froze, images shifting into a new context. Another woman, standing beside Patricia, looking much younger and strikingly similar. "Who is that?" he muttered, confusion melting into something profound. At that moment, the floor beneath them trembled violently, a deep roar ripping through the walls beside them. Dust filled the air, obscuring the light from the screen. And just as the tremor peaked, a slender figure burst through the door, an exact mirror of Patricia, yet entirely different. "This ends now." Everything froze, the dam of revelations breaking wide open. In that instant, Bruno was forced to confront the truth. Who was truly on his side, and what dark legacy awaited him in the shadows? As the smoke curled and chaos reigned, the weight of secrets thundered down, leaving him gasping for answers in a storm of uncertainty. As the dust began to settle, the tension in the room felt electric, brimming with uncertainty and fear. Bruno's heart hammered in his chest as he stared at his mother, her smug smile belying the chaos surrounding them. The world felt fragile, teetering on the edge of a knife. "What do you mean, our son?" he demanded, confusion churning in his gut. "Enough of this charade," Gabriella shouted, her voice slicing through the murmurs. "This is about more than all of you. They've manipulated you." Patricia's expression soured. "You think you understand my plan, Gabriella? You've only seen a fraction of the truth." Across the room, the shadows shifted ominously. Victor moving closer, eyes gleaming with sharp cunning. "This is bigger than you all. Family ties, secrets buried deep. Your mother has set this stage for years." Bruno exchanged frantic glances with David, who looked more lost and scared than ever. It felt like the walls were closing in. Truth and lies twisted together into an impossible knot. "Run!" Lydia yelled, yanking David away from the chaos. The crowd surged in panic, desperate to escape the crumbling auction house. But Bruno hesitated. This family, this legacy, who could he trust? "Bruno, please." David's voice broke through. "We can't let them win." With a final stealing breath, Bruno stepped forward. "If I'm meant to be a part of this twisted game, then let's play by my rules." His voice was steady, cutting through the chaos like a lifeline. As the ground beneath them trembled, Patricia's eyes narrowed. "You don't understand what you're doing." But Bruno felt it, the spark of courage igniting within him. "No more secrets," he shouted, raising the locket. "Hi. You want me? Fine. Let's see if this family can survive the truth." With that, he charged toward the chaos, and as the walls shuddered and the world began to collapse, he could feel David, Lydia, and Gabriella rallying behind him. They were a team now, a force against the shadows. Through the smoke and debris, Bruno could almost hear a voice, his mother's, echoing with consequences in the aftermath of choices made. "You don't know what you're unleashing." But he didn't care anymore. They burst through the door, stepping outside into the rain, which washed over them like a bittersweet cleansing. The world felt different, lighter somehow. They were alive, invincible. "Where do we go now?" David asked. Voice tinged with uncertainty, yet something else, hope. "Anywhere but here," Bruno replied, strength filling his chest as they stepped into the storm, leaving old ghosts behind. As they walked from the wreckage, the horizon began to brighten, and Bruno realized that while their paths were uncertain and fraught with trials, the bonds formed in fire would guide them moving forward. But questions lingered. What awaited them in this new world? What secrets were still hidden around each corner? The weight of unfinished stories hung thick in the air, anticipation crackling like thunder. And just as they stepped into the new dawn, one thing was clear: their battles were far from over, and the truth was only just beginning to unravel. Hey, before you rush off into your day, I need a moment of your time. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the incredible new stories on the horizon. This is the moment to show your support and become part of this adventure. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, showing everyone that you're a true fan. And don't stop there. Flood the comments section with your reactions, your theories about this wild ending. I want to hear from you. And be sure to instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to catch the finale. Don't wait even one more second to share. Let's keep the excitement going.